excuse me, Stan, Chairman, I don't mean to interrupt, it used to be a mile in this county.
Yeah.
It was a mile. And in Eddy County also.
In Wells County? Wells County never was, it was 12, it still is 1,200 feet.
I thought it was 14.
It was 1,200 early.
1250.
1250.
That's never
And
changed.
and we wrote that in ordinance in 2009.
1.25 times the total height or 1250, whichever is greater.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I have a question. So back to, I wish Steve was here, because he talked to the gurus that know the money. But, so this 1.2 million or whatever that comes back to Eddy and Mills County, just for clarification. It's our understanding that, you know, because it's like the state gets this big pot of money and they give 2/3 back. Eddy County gets 80%, Wells County gets 20%. So your chunk of money is not $1 million, it's 200,000 tops. And then the other question I have is for your New Rockford. I'm all for your theater. I used to go there many years ago, but so your New Rockford Economic Development, you sent some memo. Bezzardin is going to get something, but Wells County, do we have any bucket of money that we're getting, or do we have to be part of that?
No, we would get whatever.
We would have to develop our own, right?
No.
Well, that economic develop thing is totally different than that chunk of money you're getting for your county.
You want me to?
Correct.
Yeah.
Briefly, please.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the community benefit agreement, the upfront one-time payment,
Right.
$50,000 is going to go directly to Bezzardin because that's the town that's affected most closely to the project. The money that is going into the big pot and then the yearly amount. So anybody, again, we're having representation from all areas that are affected with the project. So that could be, you know, someone from the Wells County Commissioners, that could be somebody from the zoning committee, whoever it might be representing Wells County and the Bezzardin area, wherever areas the turbines are going to be set. And then we don't have anything, we don't have everything set, but our plan is people can apply, and then we can divvy that money out, and that committee can decide how that money will be spent, and that is for all of Wells County.
But isn't it just what's in the Flickertail parameter? Because that's why you're having Bezzardin in it, or I mean, I don't
Bezzardin
understand.
is a one-time fee or one-time payment because they're included in that footprint, but the yearly money that's going to be coming back to this community benefit agreement. Say, for example, a Wells County 4-H group, doesn't matter where they're located, they can apply for this money, and that committee then will decide how they have to disperse that out. So no, it's not shut, there's no open and shut, there is a possibility to service all of Wells County.
Are there Wells County people on that
We
board?
haven't formed the committee yet.
Oh,
This will be determined on if the project goes through.
no, I mean.
You guys over there. This gentleman over here said a half mile, but Gene Hartle did. Gene Hartle said a half mile setback. So if you have a mile and a variance, and he's a landowner, and he wants his a half mile, can't you, with a variance, can't you move it a half mile closer so he wants it at a half mile? With this mile setback? Can't you do that?
It would depend on whether there was a variance to be had. I don't know if there's a turbine ability to put a turbine a half mile from.
I mean, that's what the variance is for, is what I'm saying. That's what the variance is for, is what I'm saying, ain't it?
Our experience with variance in the manner you're describing doesn't work. What we call
That's louder than the wind
I was
tower.
about to say.
That's over 45 decibels.
I mean,
what we found
It's intermittent.
is that when we tried to work with a variance in that manner, it didn't work. What we pivoted to, which is part of the NRADC agreement, is a commitment to make sure that there's compensation paid to all homeowners that are within a mile of a wind turbine, whether they're signed up in the project or
Mike,
not.
Mike basically said that at our last commissioner meeting,
Okay,
that you're gonna pay within that mile.
right, right. And that's, we feel that's a great way to ensure that everybody is benefiting that is within a mile.
That's why I just don't understand why this can't work with a variance.
Well, so
When
from,
we have tried, it has not.
what happens is, it flips all of how we do property rights, is we're saying that if you buy a property, you then control, in this case, a mile of property all around you, which if you take a, say someone had a property and they have, which from my ease of math, because I'm also not a mathematician, they get a mile in every direction, they're taking a mile this way, a mile this way, a mile this way, so you end up with 9 square miles that they get to say yes or no to. So you can have the person who comes down and says, I want to have a yoga studio, I want no noise, no matter what. I've inherited all my money, I don't care about anything else. They now condemn 9 miles. That's how we don't do property. That's why we don't do it, because what we want to do is allow people to use their property, make the decision that's a good use of their property, not have their neighbor make it for them. We don't do it any other thing. You could do it throughout the rest of your code and just say, everything you do, you have to go get permission from everyone within a mile, and it wouldn't work. You'd have total collapse. So that's why it just doesn't work.
So the little guy has no rights.
The little guy totally has rights. That's things. They set things to how it will work, make sure it's a healthy and safe project. And then from a property rights perspective, we have to be careful to say that's when we protect people's use of their property, because that's how they express liberty.
So then the little guy doesn't have no rights.
Just a minute. You've been very patient, young man. You have questions?
Not so young anymore, but.
Well, relative to some of us, you
Okay,
are.
so I'm glad we're getting back on the zoning part of this. Yeah, we've gotten off track on a lot of this. So
Yeah.
let's get back on zoning. We've talked a lot about setbacks. I hear zero definition of what we're setback from. Can you explain that? Anybody? Like, what's the state setback from? What are we voting to set back from? Is it from the property line? Is it from the mailbox? Is it from the front door? Is it from outbuildings?
That's what I'm gonna take issue with Stephen Annette, and he's not here anymore, but they had 39 people sign something, they want a mile setback with a variance, and you tell me, how many of those people know what that mile's from, or what a variance even is?
Yeah. I feel
Very
we have
few
to
of them
define
would
that.
know.
Well,
So where's
they
the
don't,
information?
you know,
Yes.
and it wasn't, don't say it was me and Steve, it was the whole Friend
Well,
Township.
whatever, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
we've gotta determine that, as, you got a good point, from what?
Because we don't know what we're setting back from.
Right.
I feel we have a hard time, until we define that, I got a hard time making a decision when I'm talking about this.
Right.
Is it from your house or
Because
your
if
property line?
it's from somebody's house, our township, this is a moot point, because there isn't a tower within somebody's primary residence. But if it's from I'm gonna call it a livable residence, that's the best way livable, non-primary residence, it really affects very few, or it doesn't affect any towers from the way I see it. And we're meeting tomorrow morning, and that was one of the questions I had, but I mean, it's
I
something
know.
to think about.
We struggle with that, because it's, the devil's in the details, or is it a mile from that person's property line, which would be enough to,
That would make it really tough.
that would be making it tough.
What does the
Yeah.
state define it as? So we talked about the state with their 3 times tip height of the structure. What is their setback from?
On page 7 of this document that we're supposed to approve, item 12.1.3.30, it talks about the minimum setback from dwelling.
Right.
So that's what we would be measuring from dwelling.
Right. Janet, get that up. Here's the issue I have. I'm not even gonna talk about half mile and mile. We go to page 1. I think Burley County's done a good job with all this, but they don't define what's a dwelling.
Does the state define it? When we talk about the state minimum.
Janet and I said that. It's a primary residence is a spot where people reside. Well, you can't define residence with the same word.
Primarily to reside.
Yeah, so, we checked that out, no. You know, a dwelling, what's a dwelling? That could be a barn, that could be interpreted as anything.
Yeah.
You know, or occupied structure. participating dwelling, is that the guy? Here's my point, which I would like to see. I would like to put in there primary residence. I think the primary residence person should have more rights than the guy who comes back from Illinois once a week or once a year hunting, but has a very nice house there, but doesn't live there.
I believe that too. And also, I mean, maybe it's out of left field, but churches, stuff like that, where gathering places, cemeteries, I mean,
That's in
places
there.
where
That's
it's
in there,
expected to be quiet. I hate to see
haven't
a,
seen anything about cemeteries.
I don't know about cemeteries, but churches were in there, right, Jana?
There was something about,
Gathering places, I think.
Yeah.
Right, and that was,
but I mean, you know, I don't expect a wind tower to be a mile away from a cemetery, but I also don't expect one to be right smack dab next to it.
Right.
But it's just
Well,
things that
isn't that part of our
we haven't
work
defined.
to correct these things? Answer these questions?
yeah, it is.
I don't think it'll get done this evening, will it?
that's why we're here.
Huh?
That's
All
why
right.
we're here.
Any other comments from the group?
Yeah, we got one. This was voted on twice at a while. Passed it one time, then again another meeting. You had a straw vote, and I think it was something to two, 3 to 2, or 4 to 2.
Right.
And then you were gonna pass it, then it was tabled until they had the, well, I think it was this.
The hearing.
The
Well,
hearing, there was
We included that in the Burley County one here, and that's,
the festival, we're gonna,
We had to do
until
that.
you had the festival hall or whatever, anyway, I'm just saying, so it was tabled until they had another the open house,
Oh,
whatever.
sure. Yeah.
And then you came back, so I would like to see it voted on as a mile and see if people are still for it.
what are you gonna do? You wanna,
Just what, just a second.
Then do a roll call, roll call.
well,
Three
just a minute now.
Yes.
Bob says, hold off, hold the phone.
Well-
We're voting on this whole document. To me, the decommission thing in the Burley County thing is as important as the setback, and we don't have that right now, and I'd like to adopt that. Well, I think I'd like to do it in a package deal,
Yeah, we should,
and we don't want to record at once, right?
my feeling, we need to discuss all these items and then come to an agreement on the items we put in there and then vote on the whole,
The complete package.
and send it to the commissioners as our zoning ordinance for wind energy.
Our recommendation.
Huh?
I mean, ultimately, it's our recommendation.
Yeah,
Right.
the whole. zoning
In
ordinance.
the end, the county commissioners have to say.
Yeah.
This is just our recommendation, and this is what we're saying.
Well, that brings up a question, Dan, when the commissioners vote on it, can the commissioners pick it apart and adopt part of it and not the rest of it?
I believe, Jana, you're the legal secretary here. I think
Not
so.
legal anything.
Yeah.
I,
The zoning board, the philosophy behind zoning boards is it's a research group who brings what they feel is their best information to the commission, and they then vote on it.
all of the years that I've been in zoning.
Decommissioning is in the Burley. They say to use the North Dakota century.
Early, right, but Wells, what we have now, we got nothing.
Oh, are you voting on the, well, the one that
Jana
Jana just posted?
That's the one that we're
Voting on.
not voting on, looking to adopt.
Okay, 12.1.3.37.
Right. No, that one does have it in it, correct. Well, they then,
I move that you guys go home and do some more homework and then come back and have a meeting with everyone at least doing their homework first. Cause the first time I've come to the meetings and I hear the board, they don't have all their ducks in a row, and the guys from the wind towers didn't have all the answers right now either. And everyone's looking for answers.
But
They
the
don't want the
problem is
money
the
up.
wind towers aren't gonna have all the answers until this is put into place.
We understand
They're
that.
not gonna have those answers